You know this restaurant?
Yes, had plenty of dinners here over the years. Yeah, it's a great spot. Lived here for around, let me see, like 14 years. We live in Dublin now,
Yeah.
so it's been a while. Yeah,
What is it like being back in London?
it's always lovely. I love London. I love coming back. Yeah, very formative city for me.
Professionally, personally?
Personally and professionally, I guess, making theatre here when I was young was very important for me. We made a play called Disco Pigs and we brought it to the Bush Theatre in London when I was 20, 21 or something. I had a great run. And
What do you get out of theater that you don't, or that's different from film?
I guess it's the live thing, it's that sort of, that energy in a room with the audience, when the words hit the air and the kind of emotions hit the air, and it's so precarious. I've often talked about this, how at any time theatre can just collapse and go wrong. It's all working by the will of the audience and the will of the performers, but yet you can conjure up these vast worlds. And it's where I learned how to act really on theatre, on theatre stages. Yeah.
Do you have a desire to do it again?
Maybe, yeah. Takes an awful lot out of you, psychically and physically.
I mean, at this point, what makes you select a character?
Writing, just follow good writing if you can find it, and that might mean like not working for a long time because it's rare, it's precious, good writing.
Before your Oscar, sometimes people would describe you as an underrated actor. That changes with the Oscar.
I guess it's not for me to decide.
Did you feel a shift at all in how you were perceived after winning an Oscar?
Nothing really changed for me in terms of professionally or anything else. No, I don't have an interesting answer on that. Like I said, it was magical and so kind of overwhelming and beautiful. But then you go back to the work.
Does it take some pressure off to win an Academy Award? Like, okay, well, at least I've done that. Or does it add pressure?
I don't really know. I mean, I made a couple of films after Oppenheimer. Made this little film called Small Things Like These, and then I made a film called Steve. And I suppose if it helped get those films that were very important to me and those stories out into the world, if that helped, then I'll take that. I'll lean into that. So maybe that helps in that way. But you just kind of keep on going. I mean, I was 48 when that happened as well, so, or 47, whatever, I was old. You're kind of pretty set in your ways at that stage, you know what I mean?
Even at the top of Peaky Blinders, the movie, it says, Academy Award winner. I mean, it's part of the brand.
I guess so, yeah, and that's why, it is one of those kind of iconic things in our industry, and, you just feel very humbled to be in that club, I suppose. I don't think about it very often.
What is it that initially drew you to the character, Tommy Shelby?
Well, my journey in my career has always been trying to track down great writing, trying to have a nose for great writing. I read an awful lot of books as a youngster, and I just love story. And like I brought up Enda Walsh, and he gave me my first ever job making a show called Disco Pigs when I was just turning 20, and it was a great piece of writing, and that kind of set the bar for me. So since then, I've just been chasing great writing, and then by accident I came across these 2 episodes of Peaky Blinders, the first 2 episodes, and I kind of knew instantly it was excellent. Great writing, extremely original, extremely unique, extremely confident.
What does that mean?
In its vision, and in what it wanted to be as a show, like Birmingham between the wars in Britain, working class characters. That was something that hadn't been explored in the UK before.
And are you looking for something specific in a character?
No, everything is a kind of a surprise, but only that I had never played a character like that before, so it has to represent a challenge or something new. At that time, I'd never played that kind of physically imposing character, I guess, that, that sort of menace I'd never really kind of explored properly. So it was brand new, and I'd never done long-form television either. So,
what does great writing mean to you?
I think it moves you, and I think it also excites you, and it's you can never predict where it's going. If it's predictable, I think the audiences are so clever, so smart. If it's something that they've seen before, or if it's recycled storytelling, they're out, Whereas Peaky was always really fresh, and that was Steve's genius.
You grow grow up as a person. You age over the years of the 6 seasons.
Yeah.
Do you think you changed as an actor as well?
I hope that you get better. Like, it's very rare. There's a few actors have had that thing of being given a script and to play a character at that point in their lives, and then to map it parallel to your own life fictionally over the course of 6 seasons and a movie. So effectively 38 hours of character work, and that's rare. So I hope it helps you expand and develop as an actor, yeah.
How do you get into a character like Tommy?
I did an awful lot of reading about Britain between the wars, about the effects of what we now know as PTSD, and you kind of have to figure out like the physicality and figure out the walk, figure out the voice, figure out the costume, figure out the mannerisms, figure out the energy of the character, all of that stuff.
Tommy has a walk.
Yeah.
And that's something that when you do that walk, it also pulls you into character?
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's all... and I suppose that's the blessing of having that length of time, is you can develop it. But he's a decorated soldier, so he needed to have that menace and that power, physical power, which I'm not a big guy. I don't possess that naturally. So we had to work on that.
What do you think draws people to characters who do such terrible things?
Yeah. Gosh, I really wish I had a good answer for that. I don't know. I think people would probably know to avoid a character like that in real life and cross the street and all that. But I think it's when there's these kind of cracks and the humanity kind of comes through. That's what I think is appealing to people, And particularly over a long form television, you can really begin to excavate that and shine a light on that. And it's really, really contradictory, that he can commit these heinous acts, but then love his family. And it's just the classic kind of gangster thing, isn't it? So I don't really know the right answer. There's many of those people that we know that by our own moral standards we'd have nothing to do with, but yet we want to spend time with fictionally.
Do you find yourself drawn to particularly complicated or complex or tormented characters?
I think that's where good art exists generally. Certainly in the art that I enjoy, it's never easy. It's a little tricky, It's not reductive because human behavior is so weird. That's the stuff that I like.
What's it like to live with a character for so long?
Well, I did an awful lot of work in between, so it doesn't feel like, you constantly live in that character.
Is it like riding a bike? You're like, oh yeah, this is this guy again. I'm back to playing him again.
It became more familiar as I went on, but each time it required some amount of limbering up, and conditioning and getting back into the mindset. It wasn't just like getting a haircut and walking on set. I never got to that level of ease with him. It was always that distance to travel,
Did the haircut help?
Yes. Yes.
But for you, a film, I look back at interviews, you said, I'd make one if there's a reason to make one.
Yeah, I was kind of using that because it was the question that every single journalist asked me. So I had to figure out a pat answer to get through every interview. Because at the time we were developing and working on the script. But it was kind of in the air about like whether or not we'd make it.
So you knew you'd probably make it, but didn't want to divulge that?
Yeah, because we were in the process of kind of figuring out how we could make it into a 2-hour piece of story as opposed to a 6-hour season, and how could we tie up all the ends? How could it be satisfying for the fans? So there was a lot of work involved in it,
I read that you don't love sitting down to do an interview to promote a film. Is that true?
I enjoy this. I enjoy a considered chat about the themes and the work. That I enjoy. I think it's the more condensed version of it. It's very hard to soundbite something you've worked for years and years on. But I enjoy a good conversation about work. I really do. I guess I'm realizing. I guess I'm just quite a shy person, so that makes me maybe potentially a interviewee. But they say acting is like the shy man's revenge. You know what I mean?
Because you can be whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's the case for you?
I think so. I certainly feel very comfortable on stage and very comfortable inhabiting somebody else's shoes. You know.
How important is the not working part of your life?
I mean, it's hugely important for me. I don't have a huge amount of stamina, you know, so I think, particularly as I get older, it's nice to just stop and be with your family and just take a breather. And I think it's important to just be a human being in the world and not be, you know, like in a kind of a bubble, you know.
How do you make sure you're not in too much of a bubble? Or can you not?
I guess
really
by insisting on those long breaks, really. That's how I do it, and just being at home, you know.
So go back to Ireland,
Yeah,
be with your wife
yeah,
and your kids.
that's it. Yeah, it's really uninteresting.
What are you doing in that non-work part of your life?
Well, I'm working in terms of producing and reading and stuff, and that keeps me going. But just watching films, going to gigs, walking the dog, cooking.
It seems that Ireland really holds a very deep part of your heart.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. And it's probably become more important as I've gotten older. I think when I was a young actor, I've spoken about this before, I was very keen to show that I was an actor first and an Irish person second, so that I could go off and play like American parts and English parts. And
There have been a lot of successful Irish actors.
exactly. But then what happens is that the trajectory normally leads you back home, as it has done for me. It's been nice making Irish projects recently and working with Irish people. So it's just for me, it's a natural kind of journey, I suppose.
Is there a way to kind of give us a sense of what you feel like when you're back home in Ireland versus here in London or another place?
It just feels safe, you know. Feels familiar. I'm very in tune, I think, with nature and with kind of the landscape and with the music, and it just feels like where I should be, you know.
Music's been an important part of your life
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you have any latent remaining kind of desire to be a musician?
I play away, you know, and I'm always music adjacent in what I do, you know. Like I'm
What does that mean?
like very involved in the score for Peaky. You know, I do this radio show where I play a lot of bands and music that I like.
Yeah, on the BBC.
Yeah.
How did hosting that come about?
I went on there as a guest a couple of times. I loved that radio station, Six Music, and then they asked me would I come in and sit in for someone's show, and then I did, and I enjoyed it. And then it's like making. Do you remember when we were kids? We'd make mixtapes for your friends.
Of course.
Like play and record, and at the same time. And I used to make loads and loads of those when I was a kid, and they felt like a really considered gift to give somebody. And so that's what it feels like when you're making a radio show.
You're just doing it for the BBC.
Yeah.
And lots of people are listening to
Yeah,
your
well,
mixtape.
a few.
Do you write music?
I mess around, yeah. It's a nice outlet when you're not working. It's a nice way to be creative, is to play.
Do you play for anyone else?
I mean, I sometimes get together with my pals and play, you know. It's a lovely non-verbal way of communicating.
What initially was it that drew you to acting early on?
I think it was a segue from music, you know, we talked about music, and I think it was that live experience of trying to create that energy in a room, you know, and I always felt very comfortable on stage, not very comfortable in a room full of loads of people, but comfortable performing in it. So it was just a natural thing to move from music into theatre, I think. And I've always said that kind of the less that people know about you, the more you can inhabit the character, you know, and just portray that character as honestly and convincingly as possible.
Because they don't think, oh, here's this guy who I know this and this about?
Yeah. And inevitably that becomes a little bit eroded, I suppose, if you're in more high-profile work, but you try and preserve it as best as you can. You know?
How do you try to preserve it? Because you're certainly doing high-profile work at this point.
I guess so, yeah. I don't know, there's a tension always, yeah, there's a tension.
How does it play out for you?
I guess you do take the work deadly seriously, and you promote the work because you want people to see it, and then you just go quiet, you know.
And for me, you means going back to Ireland, walking the dog, being outside,
all of that, yeah, just
seeing your friends.
go quiet, yeah.